this is sort of the group that we, the basic set that we came up with based on what we saw from the students. Yep. Well, so I don't know. I can't speak to. I took a look at at CourseRank a little myself, and since I'm not enrolled as a student right now, it's difficult for me to gauge how well it's implemented. But apparently, there's some weaknesses in the implementation. So this is a
basically the idea is that you can make it more flexible, so that you don't have to wait for some repository that's the canonical source of what the requirements are to be updated. Instead, you just have something that makes it easier to say oh, the requirements have changed, so we should update everything. And I don't think
they don't have what if scenarios, if you want to change majors or something like that?
I don't really know how to get back into it.
Yeah, so definitely from what I understand, the CourseRank version just is missing a bunch of things that would make it much more useful. So there's an opportunity to do something that's a little bit more complete and perhaps gives you a much better look into what it's going to take to graduate. Other thoughts? So I've sent out preliminarily an email to some people with this list, and I'd love to get feedback from those of you who've seen that email, and I'd love to get further feedback from everyone in the class and also in Videoland, so that we can nail this set down pretty quickly. But the goal is to have somewhere between 6 to 8 people on the teams. And what we're going to do is we are going to create a repository for each of the projects. And what we'd like to do is just get people already sort of looking at their individual repositories and basically practicing using Git in those repositories over the weekend. And so on Tuesday, there's really a totally minimal thing that's requested, that you've interacted with. Well, we're gonna make sure we come up with some advocates for each project, and if not, we'll assign ourselves as interim advocates. Yeah.
What is the role of an advocate exactly?
Basically, so I talked about having a team leader at the very beginning of the quarter, and instead of having a leader per se, we thought we'd just come up with something that allowed a very flat development process. An advocate is someone who maybe has a slightly more vested interest in the project. They might have proposed it. They might have come up with a really good project paragraph that falls into that category. And so they may be willing to spend a little bit more time onboarding team members, getting others excited about the project, or coming up with ideas for people's individual projects to mesh into the larger project. So it's kind of like someone who's going to spend a little bit more time making sure that the projects are coordinated effectively. We'd like to actually serve as project managers at some level and help facilitate the problem of figuring out if there's a project that fits for you, figuring out if you still haven't been able to find enough people to fill a team, or if you're having trouble finding a team that suits you. So we'd like to facilitate that aspect of things, sort of organizing the groups around the different projects. And again, the list here is not a final list. So if you think that there's something interesting that's missing from this, don't hesitate to sort of ping us in the next day or two on that. Okay, so very basic for Tuesday. What we'd like to see is that all of the people enrolled in the class have actually managed to create a file in one of the repositories. Putting your file in one of the repositories doesn't mean that you're assigned to that project forever. It can be the project that you want to, consider working on now. But, we'd like to get people sort of into the system as quickly as possible. Yeah.
Are we for this project? Are we limited to using GWT?
I'd like to say yes. I mean, you can add additional things, but try and fit it within the context of GWT. So GWT is meant to be this framework that allows you and a team to do all sorts of interesting things. If you're finding it very difficult to to do that, I'd like a good justification for it. But it's certainly not impossible to add all sorts of external stuff into a GWT-based project. But what I'm trying to get people to look at is not how much code that they can write as an individual, or how cool they can do stuff on their own, but it's sort of how people can work together as a team to get something done that's interesting. Because I'm thinking that this is supposed to take you not just to a higher individual productivity, but understanding the issues of group productivity and really figuring out how you as an individual can scale as a team grows.